Welcome to Tiny Show and Tell Us, the bonus series where you write in with your favorite science news or factoid, we read your email aloud, and then we dive deeper. I'm Sam Jones, and I'm here with my co-host, Deboki Chakravarti.
Hi, Sam. Last time when we did this, we talked about grossing. We also talked about yeast.
We did.
So we covered the gross, we covered the yeast, we covered it all. And so for listeners who want us to expand our range even further, just write into us. Send in a story you'd like for us to cover on Tiny Show and Tell Us by sending us an email at tinymatters@ecs.org, or you can fill out the form linked in the episode description. And Sam, today I'm going to go first. I have a really fun one from our listener, Jeff, who wrote, "The people who collect occlupanids, which are bread bag closer tab things, have basically created an entire classification system for identifying the tabs that is very similar to the taxonomical system used for the classification of living organisms. They use Latin-derived names and everything. Check out www.horg.com or this guy's TikTok describing it, which we'll link to in the notes."
So these are on the top of, say, a bread bag. You sort of like twist the plastic closed.
Not the ones that are like a twisty wire. These are the ones that are like a little plastic tab and they have like a little like cutout in them and you like jam the plastic. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So the TikTok is from a creator named Levin_Parker. So super thanks to them for laying a lot of this out in there. I, for one, had never looked at occlupanids before, but I think like a lot of people, I kind of throw them away and then tie up the bags. And I didn't really notice that they are so different from one another. Like, I guess I realized like, yeah, some of these are white, some of them are like a light blue.
You could have asked me and I would have said, yeah, they're always white. Like I very much have not been paying attention to them.
Well, now you're going to pay attention. So for anyone who's listening to this and who's like, I didn't know those bread tags had a name. They were never originally named occlupanids. I'm pretty sure this name is like for this system that was created for them, this classification system. It comes from the Latin occlu for close and pan for bread. And that horg.com website, Horg stands for Holotypic Occlupanid Research Group. Currently, it is down. So unfortunately, when I was doing research for this, I couldn't like use their incredible system to like figure out all of the specifics of the classification system. Luckily, there have been articles, there is a Reddit, there are plenty of people who are talking about this. I believe there might even be a Discord group. There is definitely a Reddit, so you can check out the occlupanid subreddit if this sounds at all exciting for you. Because like you'll see, like I was just checking it today, there was someone asking for help identifying a particular occlupanid or like figuring out if it even is an occlupanid. Which like this is the best use of Reddit always, is to like identify strange things in the world.
Yes.
So basically, this system can be traced to a computer graphics and visualization specialist named John Daniel. In an article with Inverse, he said that he like didn't really get into these bread tags until he was 24, and then at that point started being like, this thing looks almost biological and claw-like. Why are people paying more attention to them? And naturally, that led to him classifying them. So my understanding, and again, this is coming from other articles, so I don't know if I'm fully understanding this correctly, but they're considered to be in the kingdom Plasticae, phylum Phasinoclucida, and the class Occlupanidae. And from there, they're divided into genera and species. There are hundreds of species. They all have Latin names. And one of like the biggest characteristics used to differentiate these occlupanids and to like define what species they are is, as it's called, the oral groove. It's that hole in the middle of them. And so basically, if you look at that hole, you can look at the shape of them. You can look at the number of notches. You can also see little notches on the side of the bread tag. There are like extremely technical names that are given to like a number of different characteristics of these bread tags to differentiate them. And it's really, really fun, which is part of why I recommend looking at the TikTok, because they also go through some of the visual characteristics. So if horg.com is still down when this episode goes live, definitely check out the TikTok to get kind of a sense.
I want to know what the most evolved occlupanid is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is unfortunately more like of a classification system for describing them.
Right. I was going to say it's more like a taxonomy versus a phylogenetic tree situation.
Exactly. Yeah. But maybe that's the thing is like, I wonder if there's an evolution of the occlupanid that you could trace. Like there's got to be a historical one.
And if there were, I'm sure this would be rife with science beef.
Oh, absolutely. I'm surprised there hasn't. Like, I think at some point I'm going to have to go through the Reddit and find where the occlupanid drama is. But hopefully it's not. It would be great if there was like a wholesome taxonomy of bread tag community and there isn't drama. But if there is and you know of the bread tag conflict, like let me know.
Yeah, please.
My favorite detail about this is there was a paper published in 2011 titled Plastic Bag Clip Discovered in Partial Colectomy, Accompanying Proposal for Phylogenetic Plastic Bag Clip Classification. So to boil it all down, apparently this whole thing might be important or could be relevant because these bread bag ties can end up in your body.
Oh.
So apparently plastic bread ties were invented in 1952, and the first time someone accidentally consumed one that we've had documented was in 1975. And between 1975 and 2011, which is when this paper was published, there had been at least 20 cases that had been reported of people consuming these bread ties. This is a concern because those claws are pokey, like they have holes in them, and so they can actually like grab into the intestinal wall and they can lead to holes in your wall. They can lead to necrosis or cell death, and then also they can get released and then end up in other parts of the intestine, and so that can also like keep causing problems. As of this particular paper, again published in 2011, there were at least 3 deaths that had been associated with plastic bag clips in the gastrointestinal tracts. This paper has some pretty grim images of this one particular case study of the bread tie being found in a person's body. And so one of their arguments in this paper, where John Daniels, the creator of this system, is also like a co-author, their argument is that using this classification system could actually be a way to find hazardous clips. So like in this particular paper where like a particular case was being studied, the design was toxodenta. That's what it was called, according to its Latin name, as applied to Horg. So yeah, that was their argument. I don't have a good sense of like, has it actually continued to be applied in that way?
Right.
But I did find that interesting.
So then the idea would be like, okay, because we are able to provide this taxonomy, we're able to zero in on the bag tags that could be most dangerous. Like we shouldn't include those on bread bags or whatever else. I mean, that seems really useful. I love that this is just kind of like a fun thing, but it is kind of nice that there could be this like other side use, It's like
Totally.
that's not the main point.
Like, I mean, it's always like fascinating when you talk about classification systems, and this comes up in biology all the time too, because like a lot of times we try to apply like categories to things that maybe are not so easily categorizable. Right. Or it's like, why are we applying these categories? And there's a way in which these categories can be really reductive. They can take away from, a lot of aspects that these bread tags, for example, might have in common. But there's also ways that it can be helpful. And I think this is like one of those potentially useful ways, unless you just found that all bread tags are harmful when swallowed. At the very least, we should be avoiding swallowing bread tags if we can help it, of all classes.
Yeah, let's not do that. But this is so interesting. Thank you, Jeff, for writing in. I love this kind of stuff. It's really fun.
Yep.
Now my tiny show and tell us today is from listener Jessica. Jessica wrote in saying, "Hi, excellent co-hosts. Thank you for a fun, informative podcast about science." That's what we're going for. You are welcome, Jessica. And then Jessica continues, "I love learning something new about the world around me from you each episode. I'm hoping to convince my kids to like podcasts enough to try it out too." Yeah, convert them.
Yep.
"I'm writing about a phenomenon that I had never heard of before January 23rd. And that's January 23rd, 2026. Obviously, we say this all the time. We're behind, but that's the date. On the morning before the start of the winter storm that affected most of the continental U.S., our family woke up to no power in the house, an obviously disconcerting start to the weekend. I should note that we live in Central Texas, and my kids who were 3, 4, and 8 at the time of the epic 2021 storm still remember the hours without power and days wondering if or when it would return or drop out again. On the morning of January 23rd, we woke up to no power. It turned out the entire neighborhood of more than 1,000 houses had been knocked out by our power poles catching fire. Apparently, the months of pollen and dust accumulation throughout this drought, coupled with a bit of drizzle, did some sort of chemistry magic that resulted in the poles catching fire. This is a known phenomenon in dry climates, but usually doesn't happen ahead of a massive storm, so it only gets local attention. It seems like something preventable, but what do I know? I've attached a graphic from our local meteorologist and a picture that I took on a dark and misty run, not knowing I had captured a fire and the crew trying to solve the issue all at once. Thanks again, Jessica. Thank you, Jessica. So first, we will have those graphics up on Instagram at ACS Podcast. So if you haven't yet, please give us a follow and check them out. Let's talk about this. So what happened? Like, why did these power poles catch fire? Like Jessica mentioned, Texas had been going through a drought. And during the drought, dust and pollen had built up on the electrical equipment at the top of the power pole. And then you have some rainy weather that brings moisture that then mixed with the dust and the pollen. And that actually created a film. The film was the issue because it allowed electricity to flow from the power lines over the equipment and ultimately to the wooden tops of the power poles. And that went on long enough for the poles to catch fire. So a lot of the poles had to be repaired or replaced. And it seems like this event on January 23rd, it left at least a few thousand people without power. But fortunately, I couldn't find any casualties from this, so it was brought under control quickly. But what I thought was maybe most interesting was that it was the perfect amount of moisture for this to happen. Because if it had rained more, then the dust and pollen would have been washed away. So Jabogi, something that you found in your research was that there's kind of this like Goldilocks thing with how much water you want. If you get that light mist, then you get a film that can lead to pole top fires. But if you get a heavy rain, it's going to wash away the dust and pollen. There are other things that apparently can shape the likelihood of pole top fires. One is salt accumulation. So that would be an issue. And obviously, Jessica said they're in Central Texas. That's not going to be the thing. If you're in a coastal area, it could be. Also, of course, agricultural dust. As we are actually recording this, I cannot go outside in Washington, D.C. because wildfire smoke from Canada has made its way down to the mid-Atlantic. We were just talking. You've been experiencing that the last few days. Finally, it seems to be letting up a bit for you, someone in the Northeast. So in Australia, the power utilities companies seem to have some strategies. And it's unclear how many of these are being implemented in the U.S. and some other regions, but I just thought this was fascinating. So one of them, of course, wash the dust and pollen off.
I never like thought of washing power poles before, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Now I know.
Because you don't think of like, oh, let's wash these wires and electrical stuff like with water. But I mean, like, obviously they do fine with water. They're outdoors. Yeah. So that is one approach. And I guess they use helicopters to do this often. Also, they'll add a silicone coating. So the silicone is an insulator and moisture barrier. And so it prevents that conductive tracking, which is what happened in Texas, where you have an electrical path that formed over the surface of the circuit board. And then that led to the fires once it got to, the wooden pole tops.
Yeah.
Also, they're replacing certain insulators with silicone-based ones that would be better at avoiding contamination. And then they're also using models and drones to predict which areas might be at most risk for the pole top fires. Another approach, obviously, is to make underground power networks.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So in Perth, 70% of the network is underground. It's taken decades to make that happen. It's not an easy project. I wish that we had this. Now I have above ground power. The last house we lived in, it was below ground because it was the area that I lived in. Like the houses had been built much more recently. And so I think that was just like part of the plan. And so actually we had a transformer catch on fire. I think I shared this with you when it happened.
Yeah.
Like, it was now
so scary.
So scary. I want to say it was January. Had nothing to do with like dust or pollen, but just, like, yeah, it caught on fire. It was probably 30 feet from our house.
Oh my God.
It was really scary. There was like a live wire in the road. Like we were without power. It was freezing cold. It was not ideal in many ways. Yeah. So, talking about power poles, like apparently the USDA has actually like written about this, about how we need more routine inspections, we need maintenance on utility poles, and it's a way also to reduce the number of wildfires. So Deboki, you found a 2022 press release that was kind of a collab between the USDA, Forest Service, and the Bureau of Land Management, Idaho Boise District, among other collaborators, to try and make protocols around maintenance. And what's kind of cool is that the technology around maintenance has been progressing. I mean, the ways of sort of like judging whether a power pole was in good shape were really archaic, as still are in many cases.
Yeah.
You look at the quality of the wood, or do what I saw called a poke and prod or hammer sounding test. And usually a pocket knife is used for this. Yeah, a technician would just like poke at the wood, try and whittle it away or puncture it to look for decay or damage. But now a couple of the techniques that you found, Deboki, they're really cool. So one looks at how sound waves travel through wood, because sound waves will travel faster through decayed wood. And it seems like this stress wave testing equipment is pretty small and portable, which is great. And then also we can do this thing called micro drilling. So decayed wood is much easier to drill through. And so, yeah, you're essentially drilling like a tiny bit of wood to check it out. Both of these options, I would say, seem better than just poking at the power pole with a pocket knife. But who am I to say?
I bet the people who are good at the poke and prod test, like, I bet they know. Like, I bet they can look at a pole. But I'm also like pro like having a better standardized way to do it.
It also feels much safer for a technician to say use, stress wave testing equipment versus like hop on up there and, like start poking it powerful.
For sure.
So yeah, that's all I have to say about this. I obviously went in a variety of directions based off of Jessica's story, but
I mean, like, these poles are like everywhere, right? Like, you see them and I've never been like, oh, that's gonna catch on fire, and now I'm like, oh right, that could catch on fire.
Right, it's wood.
And I want them to be in good condition.
Wow. I just feel like my knowledge base, Tiny Show and Tell Us. Thank you. Thank you to
we
everyone
learned a lot
who writes
today.
in. Yeah, we're always learning. It's the best.
Yeah. Yep. Red tags and fires. Thank you to Jeff and Jessica for submitting to Tiny Show and Tell Us, a bonus series from Tiny Matters created by the American Chemical Society and produced by Multitude.
You can send us an email to be featured in a future Tiny Show and Tell Us episode at tinymatters@acs.org, or you can fill out the form that's linked in the episode description. We'll see you next time.